My name is Tyler Holinsky. My journey to Christ is ongoing. Um, I guess we'll go back to my childhood, kind of where things all started for me. Growing up in a small suburb of northern Twin Cities, I had a pretty good childhood. I played sports, had friends. The family life was pretty unstable growing up. Um, it was kind of a broken household. Parents weren't really, I guess, in love with each other. And as the years progressed, it kind of, the family just fell apart. Parents got divorced. By that time, I was quite a bit older, probably 14, 15. And I had some younger siblings who dealt with it a little more than I did. At the time when that happened, my first impulse was to just get away from it all. So I moved out. I guess backing up a little bit. As a kid, I attended church on Sundays occasionally, on Christmases, Easters, with my parents. We weren't really avid church goers or followers of Christ, but I guess you could say cultural Christians. Nothing ever really stuck with me. It was always just kind of a hangout for seeing friends after school. And I never really thought about God much until I got quite a bit older. In my teenage years, I was pretty rebellious. Parents going through a divorce. I got into the wrong crowd of kids, started doing drugs, alcohol, skipping school, just all around misbehaving. I think looking back now, it was a lot harder on me than I admitted at the time, but I was definitely acting out. Ended up dropping out of school at 16 and moved out onto my own. And at this time, I am in the party scene, drinking quite a bit, and getting involved with harder drugs, addiction, the wrong crowd of people. Not really thinking about God at all in my life at this time. In fact, more mad at the world than anything. I didn't acknowledge God or really myself as a spiritual person, a spiritual being at the time. I was mainly focused on dissociating from everything. And I spent most of my teenage years and my 20s in the cycle of addiction, getting in trouble, misbehaving, hanging out with the wrong crowd, in and out of treatment centers, jail. Pretty much hopeless for my future, and not really having a true identity of myself, who I was, what my life was about. I just kind of wanted to dissociate from all of it and not think about it. And I had a few pretty major events in my life that kind of separated the beginning portion of my life to the second half. One was a DUI car accident that I was in. And at the time, I didn't really care about anything. And I was driving intoxicated behind the wheel and ended up causing an accident and hurting some people. And everybody turned out all right by the grace of God. I mean, it was, to me at the time, I didn't know how to deal with this, and I didn't know what it all meant and how I could see a path forward from here. But this event really made me start thinking about my life a little more and what life was all about. And I guess around this time is when the idea of God first popped into my head. But I was too ashamed and guilty of myself, of the things that I was doing at the time, to acknowledge him working in my life. Acknowledge that he was there keeping me alive at this time and holding my hand through some of the worst times of my life. And I just didn't realize it at that time. Looking back at it now, I see it clearer every day now that he was with me every step of the way. And so a few years had passed since this time. This is around 2016, 2017. And I didn't really get my act together from there. In fact, I was just caught in a cycle of feeling sorry for myself, guilty of the things that I had done, the sins I had committed on myself and other people. And I think that shame and that guilt really kind of brought me from, first of all, being able to forgive myself, but also being able to accept Jesus's forgiveness of my sins. I'd always been aware from the times as a kid going to church on Christmas and Easter that I had heard about Jesus, and I knew very little about his story and what he meant to the world and what he meant to me. I had just freshly gotten out of jail for the third time, and I just told myself I can't live like this anymore. And I ended up packing up all my things and moving from Minneapolis, Minnesota to Fargo, North Dakota, pretty much on a whim. There's not really a very good reason why I chose to come to Fargo. I just needed to get away from the old life, the old people. And around the same time, I was talking with a close friend of mine, who was also dealing with a lot of things in her life at the time, and depression and anxiety. And she was a follower of Christ. And she would tell me about all her stories of her faith in Jesus and how her relationship with God and Jesus helped get her through these hard times, and how she always had an optimistic point of view that she was never alone. She was never having to go through this stuff alone, and that her sins were forgiven. And she was able to forgive herself because of that. And this really, this was, I'd say, the turning point for me when I really started considering accepting Jesus into my life. It wasn't one moment that really changed for me. It was a process over time of slowly learning more about who this Jesus was and just kind of accepting him into my life. I'm not really sure when it happened, but I decided to start praying one day. And this might not have been the worst time of my life, but it was certainly the loneliest time of my life, because now I'm in a city far away from home. I don't have much contact with my family. I have no friends left. Just feeling lost and loss of identity. And I spent my teens and my 20s kind of in this hopeless lifestyle of addiction, alcoholism, and going in and out of jail and rehab centers that I had no idea who I was or who I wanted to be or the potential for my life. And this first time that I prayed, I felt a wave of euphoria over me. And I still get that to this day when I pray, because it's that, to me, it feels like God letting me know that he's there and that he doesn't think about me the way that I think about me. I didn't feel alone anymore, and I felt hope for my life going forward, and I felt the love. Once I started opening myself up to the possibility of that salvation, was when I could finally start forgiving myself. Because if Jesus could love me and forgive me, I could love me and forgive myself as well. It filled me with hope and purpose for my future and for redemption for my soul, which before this time, I wasn't sure was possible. And probably the greatest part that I left out is the renewal of my relationship with my family. And seeing my parents further their relationship with Jesus and starting to get to know him as well, and just my family reuniting again and becoming closer. And I think it took some separation, but my mom nowadays is all in for Jesus. I mean, she's a true believer. And my dad he's getting there, but he's accepted Jesus into his life as well, and he sees what I'm doing, and he's so proud of me. And I've never felt like I've given my parents something to be proud of. And Jesus gave me that back in my life. It's the most powerful thing that's ever happened in my life. And I give all my thanks to God for that, because I don't even think I would be here alive today without him. I'm so grateful for having a second chance at figuring it all out. And I'm still figuring it out. But the difference now is I feel that Jesus is with me, and I know that he's with me. And this is what really convicted me in my faith, is taking a good look at the world and my life and what I'm seeing happening around the world and what I'm seeing happening in my community. And I see the evil at play. And for the longest time in my life, that's all I ever saw. Now I see the good. I see the godliness happening to counteract it as well. And there's never been a time in my life I wanted to be on the right side of this spiritual war than right now. And I decided I only want to contribute to the good in life anymore. And I'm sick of caving into the devil and wickedness. Mm-hmm. I want to help people, and I want to love people, and I want to love my community and the world, and I want to share myself and my purpose with the world. And that's something I never even considered without God in my life. Because before, my life was just about me. And now it's much bigger than that.